Blessed new moon.
Amen.
And Happy New Year.
Amen.
Why we say Happy New Year, it's the first day of the month of Tishri, and it's the first day of the new year, meaning the agricultural year. We know that the new year is in Abib in April. That's the new year, religious new year. But this one is the new year, meaning the agricultural season beginning. That's why we say new year. And why agricultural? Because it's a type of the agricultural for the people. People are arranged in the whole meaning, the whole reason why God gave us that agricultural year was to emphasize a point on how people are going to be saved, how people are going to be harvested. And that's why we have an agricultural year, which begins on the first day of the 7th month, which is the month of Tishri. Yeah, that's the calendar which is in the Bible, and that's what we follow, isn't it? So in today's study, we're going to learn about the judgment of the people. If there is a crucial subject which needs everyone to learn, it's the judgment of the living. And the judgment, when Christ entered the Holy of Holies, he started this work of judgment, isn't it? And then today we want to see what exactly he is doing in the Holy of Holies since he entered in 1844. We all believe that, isn't it? We believe that he entered into the Holy of Holies in 1844 to start a work of investigative judgment, isn't it? Let's go to Psalms chapter 9, verse 7 and 8.
But the Lord shall endure forever. He hath prepared his throne for judgment.
Right.
And he shall judge the world in righteousness. He shall minister judgment to the people in uprightness.
We saw in Daniel chapter 7, especially when it says thrones were set. Yeah? Daniel chapter 7. Let's go to Daniel chapter 7. Where after we went out of the dark ages, then Daniel was shown thrones being set. Now let's go to verse 9.
I beheld too the thrones were cast down,
Right?
and the Ancient of Days did sit.
Do you see? Daniel was shown this throne being set. And we can go even in Revelation chapter 4, where John also was shown the throne being set. And we saw God himself, the Ancient of Days, in the throne, isn't it? Yes. And this is the earthly throne, which was only prepared in 1844 for judgment, which started for the planet Earth to judge, because it's the only planet where sin entered. The other 11 planets, the sin did not enter. We know there are 12 planets, isn't it? So the only planet which is sinful was the Earth. They also, the other 11 planets, have got, remember Sister White explained about these 11 planets, that they all had the tree of life. Yes. Yeah? Which Adam and Eve were tempted to eat. But all these 11 planets, they did not eat it, isn't it? They remained upright. They obeyed the word of God. It's only planet Earth where sin entered through Adam. And now God has prepared a throne in 1844 where judgment is being set only for and this is the throne where you see in Revelation 4:15, where after the judgment scene, where there is smoke entering to show that this throne is finished. But the throne where Christ and God in heaven rule the whole universe is not this earthly throne. Yeah? It is the throne in the third heavens, where God and Christ rule the whole universe and the whole 11 planets. But the throne which is set in 1844 was planet Earth, to deal with planet Earth. So when God, the Ancient of Days, sat there, we saw the description of it, which is not our lesson today. The description of that throne in Daniel seeing thousand and thousand ministering, isn't it? And also John saying, seeing 24 elders around about the lamb in front of the throne and the sea of glass. Yeah? And where Daniel saw that sea of glass as the rainbow. You understand? So this is just a description of what the throne is about, which is for the judgment of we want to see who is being judged. Yeah? Now, my lesson today is I want to prove that the judgment is for two people. Huh? The dead and the living. All this time we have been battling with the judgment of the dead. And none of us know that this judgment extends to the living. And it's a two distinct phase. You understand? The judgment of the living is another phase. The judgment of the dead is another phase. And the dead, we start with the death of Abel. Is the first one who died on earth. So, from the first one who died until those who are still dying now, they have that judgment of the dead phase. Yeah? And then it progresses into the judgment of the living. Let us find out whether it's true in Great Controversy, page 483.
As the books of record are opened in the judgment,
Yes?
the lives of all who have believed on Jesus come in review before God.
Right. So the lives of all those who have believed in Jesus, they come before. We saw Daniel and John explaining about these books in the judgment scene, isn't it? Now, these are the books that are being opened. As they are opened, the lives of those who lived on earth start coming. Yeah? We have a day of atonement in this 7th month, which comes on the 10th day. And this is exactly what God is doing, examining each one who lived on earth. And when it comes to those who are being judged, who are still alive, is what we call judgment of the living, isn't it? Now let's hear about that.
Beginning with those who first lived upon the earth.
Yeah?
Our advocate presents the cases of each successive generation
Right.
and closes with the living.
Right. So why would God go from generation to generation? Meaning, in each generation there is a present truth which is set for those people in that generation. And what God sees is to see who has taken the message, who has rejected it. And this is how he judges generation to generation. You see the generation of Noah? The judgment there is judging the people who lived in that time according to the message which came to the prophet Noah. And it judges that generation. Yeah? Who knew what? And who did what according to what you know. Because if you go to James chapter 4, verse 17. So because somebody was saying, anybody who is dying, who never even went to church, how are they investigated? Verse 17.
Verse 17.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore to him that knoweth to do good,
Right?
and doeth it not,
Yes.
to him it is sin.
So you see, God knows what you knew. Even if you didn't even go to church, even if you didn't even know God, but knows what you know is right. And will judge you according to what you know. That's why we say, judge according to the light you received. So God knows what you knew. And those who are not even worshiping God, God knows. Because when people are born, automatically there is the 6th law in the 10 commandments. That's why we divide those 10 commandments into 2 laws. The first law is the first 4 laws are to worship God, for you to love God, isn't it? You know the first 10 commandments. Yeah? Thou shalt have no other God before me is to love God. Thou shalt not bow down to graven images. That's to know God, to love God, isn't it? Thou shalt not handle the name of the Lord in vain. Those people nowadays who are so fashionable, saying everything, oh my God, that is holding the name of God in vain. And some evade, oh my God, and say, oh my gosh. All that's swearing, that's doing all the things that the 10 Commandment is condemning, isn't it? Thou shalt not hold the name of the Lord in vain. Yeah? And the other fourth law is, remember to keep the Sabbath holy. And when God says remember, he has already put the day in the Bible. It's for you to research to see which one is the day. Because when he's going to judge you on that law, he knows the answer is there somewhere. If you read it, you are going to come up with the answer. So those 4 laws are for you to love God. Yeah? And then the 6 laws are you to love your neighbor. Which ones? Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Thou shalt not covet. All these 6 laws, thou shalt not go to the 10 Commandments. You find these are for you to love your neighbor. That's why they are divided into 2 laws. It's not that God has broken all the whole 10 Commandments and said, discard. No. The 2 laws are to say the 10 Commandments is divided into 2 laws. Into the first law, to love God. The second law, to love your neighbors. Hang these 10 Commandments on these 2 laws. It's not saying God has abandoned the 10 Commandments. As I see people saying, we now have 2 laws. It's only on love, love, love. No. It means the 10 Commandments are divided into 2 laws. The first 4 to love God. The last 6 to love the neighbor. So the last 6, automatically, whether you don't go to church or not, you are born with that in your heart. Yeah? Even a crawling baby knows I shouldn't hit another person, isn't it? I should love. Yeah? I shouldn't steal. I shouldn't kill. That's why even in the courts, they are allowed to legislate using those 6 laws. Yeah? They use them. You go to court, you handle the Bible, you say, I'm going to say everything in the Bible. Why? Where do they get it from? Because the 6 laws are a mandatory, isn't it? They are a mandatory to anyone, whether you go to church or you don't go to church. You are not supposed to steal. You are not supposed to kill. You are not supposed to covet. You are not supposed to bear false witness. That's why they are strong on it, because they are for you to love your neighbors. Yeah? So when you die, even if you don't go to church, these 6 laws will condemn you. Huh? So someone says, I don't know, I don't need to go to worship, I don't need to go to God. But still you will be judged. You will be judged by these 6 laws. And the 4 laws, God might say, you did not go to any church, you did not know about God. This one, you might not be judged on it, because you are only judged according to the light that you write. So we are, as a people, Sabbath keepers, receiving a lot of light. And God knows who heard it. What did you hear? And in what you heard, did you practice it? That's why it's important to hear and to do. Yeah? You obey and do. You listen and do. You're not supposed to be a hearer only. You're supposed to hear and practice. Because you'll be judged by the light you have received. You understand? So that's why James says, for who? Read it again.
Therefore, to him that knoweth to do good, and doeth it not,
right,
to him it is sin.
Right. Whatever, whether you did not know, once you are being judged, God knows what you know is to do good. What did you do good? What did you know? You knew you were not supposed to steal, so why did you steal? You knew you were not supposed to kill, so why did you kill? You knew you were not supposed to lie, so why did you lie? Yeah? You knew you were supposed to keep the Sabbath, so why didn't you keep it? You knew you were supposed to love God. Have no other gods before. So why? So God will still use the same law. Yeah? To judge. But there is in the holy law, in the sanctuary, most people emphasize that we have only the moral law, but it's not only the moral law which was there. Yeah? And we are going to study to see what is there in the go to read from Revelation chapter 5 verse 1 to 14.
And I saw in the right hand
Mm.
of him that sat on the throne a book written within, and on the backside sealed with 7 seals.
Do you see the seals? When they started to open that book where the names of people are inside that book, isn't it? So these are the people that are going to be judged, isn't it? They are in the book. Yeah? So it's the beginning of the judgment scene. When we see in Revelation 5, God in the Holy of Holies, in the throne, opening this book. And this book with the 7 seals first. Yeah? And read on, let's see.
And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof? And no man in heaven, nor in earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither to look thereon.
Now, it's clear that the opening of this book in the judgment scene is the beginning of the judgment. Huh? It's the beginning of the judgment scene. Huh?
Yes.
Are we together?
Yes.
We are going to read from that. Just go to tract number 15, pages 33 to 34. Truth reveals as well.
Truth reveals that with the breaking of the first seal,
Right?
with the opening of the first section of the book, the judgment begins.
Right. It
It is also self-evident that at the judgment throne of God, the apocalyptic symbolism depicts the nations and peoples, saints and sinners, churches and prelates, Satan and his angels, the past, the present, and the future.
right.
Thus, all the books of the Bible meet and end in the Revelation.
Right. So, when in Revelation chapter 5, it shows now the judgment is started, isn't it? And we have been told by 483 Great Controversy that it starts with those who first lived on earth, who are already dead, isn't it? And extends to those who are living, who should meet Christ without tasting death. They have their phase called judgment of the living. Now, in 1844, which angel proclaimed the judgment of the dead? The third angel's message. When Christ entered the Holy of Holies, which prophet was working? Sister White. She was being used by the third angel, giving this message that judgment has started. So she was proclaiming the message over the judgment of the dead. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Sister White preached the message which was enabling all those who are dead to be judged. Judgment of the dead. And all who were alive in her time, yeah, since 1844, yeah,
Yes.
where, because you remember when you preached the first and second and third seal, God, New Jerusalem, and Jesus' new name, which is in early writing, page 15. She was the proclaimer of the first seal, which is God. Huh?
Yes.
So those who were living in her time, they received that first seal. That's why when the kingdom is to be started, before the kingdom is established, they wake up. Huh?
Yes.
Do you believe a people will wake up and continue proclaiming with those who further received the other 2 more seals? Do you believe that?
Yes.
Let's go to the judgment, the special resurrection, and see who wakes up. In Great Controversy there, page, I think it's 6:37. Try 6:37. Right? Where it says graves were open. Yeah?
Paragraph 1.
Paragraph 1.
Graves are open.
See, we want to see whether those people who lived when Sister White was proclaiming the third angel's message are really going to wake up before those who were being judged on the judgment of the dead, who were not part of the third angel's message proclamation, who were not alive when the third angel's message was proclaiming. They do not wake up. Only those who died from 1844 until this time are the ones who had received the first seal, so already automatically they were supposed to receive the other 2 more seals. Right, read, graves were open.
Graves are open.
Yeah?
And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth awake, some to everlasting life,
Right?
and some to shame and everlasting contempt.
It's not before the end of the world. It's the time when the kingdom is being established. It's when Christ comes as Michael in Daniel chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. He is coming as Michael. And it is before the time of trouble commences.
Yes.
When Michael comes in Daniel chapter 12, verse 1 and 2, Michael shall stand. Next, what comes up? There shall be a time of trouble such as never was. And next, what comes? And all those who are in the grave, some wake up to everlasting, some wake up to shame. It's the only resurrection which has 2 types of people, the wicked and the righteous. Because when Christ comes in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16, no wicked will arise. Read it in 1 Thessalonians. No wicked will arise.
For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God.
Right?
And the dead in Christ shall rise first.
Right. You see, there's those who are rising first. And what?
Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so shall we ever be with the Lord.
So you see, the righteous have gone. The wicked didn't go. What happened to the wicked? In Second Thessalonians there, chapter 2, verse 8. What happens to the wicked who were alive? And when Christ came, took those who are righteous, and they caught up with him in the cloud. And those who are rising up first, who are only righteous. What happened to the wicked? 8, yeah?
And then shall the wicked be revealed,
Right?
whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth,
Right?
and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming.
You see, the wicked who were alive, they also joined those wicked who are in the grave. Only the righteous went. Only the grave of someone who was righteous is the one that opened. If that one was not righteous, the grave never opened. When does that grave open? In Revelation chapter 20, verse 5. When does the graves of the wicked open?
5.
Verse 5.
But the rest of the dead live
Yeah.
not again until the 1,000 years were finished.
Right?
This is the first resurrection.
Do you see those who arose first?
Yes.
Those who did not arise in that first resurrection did not arise. When? Read on 6.
Blessed and holy
Blessed and holy.
is he that hath part
Only blessed and holy to those who have a part in what? In the first resurrection. They are only blessed and holy. The wicked are not blessed and holy.
No.
They did not arise. Only when the righteous come back from heaven after staying for 1,000 years, that's when the wicked start to arise. You understand that? So, in Daniel chapter 12, we saw a resurrection where the wicked also arose together with the righteous. It's different from the coming of Christ. Let's go to Daniel chapter 12. Verse 1 and 2.
And at that time shall Michael stand up,
Right?
the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people.
Yes.
And they shall be a time of trouble,
such as never was.
since there was a nation even to the same time.
You see, Michael has come. But the time of trouble starts after he is here. Huh?
Yes.
Do you believe now he comes before the world comes to an end?
Yes.
Then what precedes his coming, the number 666 you are talking about? It comes when Michael is already here. Huh? And what else?
And at that time,
Uh-huh.
thy people shall be delivered.
Right?
Everyone that shall be found written in the book.
Daniel's people are the commandment keepers. Why is Daniel's people only? Because judgment began in the house of God. And they are already judged. Do you see, they have been judged before Michael came to start the judgment of the living for the other people who are not in the house of God. Huh? Right? Uh-huh.
And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life,
Right?
and some to shame and everlasting contempt.
Do you see, this coming before the world comes to an end is where there is a resurrection of two types of people. The wicked and the righteous. But not in the coming in the clouds. It's only the righteous who wake up.
Yes.
You understand? These resurrections should actually convince you that their kingdom is going to be established. It's the time when he is coming as Michael. Someone says just not coming visible. No. It's visible. Go to Matthew chapter 25. You find he will come.
Verse 31.
31.
When the Son of Man shall come in his glory,
Yeah?
and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory.
You see, when he's coming as Michael, he's coming with the throne of his glory. He's not, because when he's coming in Thessalonians, he's not coming with the throne of glory. He's coming in clouds. Divide the word of God properly, isn't it? Now here, he is coming to sit. But in Thessalonians, he is not coming down here. He waits in the clouds. And the righteous go to him in the clouds. You understand? Now here, he is sitting. It's when the people are still commingled, the righteous and the wicked, they are still together. Huh? Because when he comes in the cloud, the righteous and the wicked are separated. They are already separated because the righteous are sealed with the number for God. You know, mark of the Lord, isn't it? And those who are not, they are having 666. So you see, he is coming when the separation is long done. Huh? But now when he is coming in his throne to establish the kingdom, he's finding us still commingled, the gods and the sheep together. And he's even having dialogue with those who are wicked. Did you see when you expand with that verse, he will be talking to those who are wicked. Who is telling, I was sick and you didn't give me any, you didn't visit me. I was hungry, you didn't even give me any food. I was thirsty, you didn't give me any. You see, and they also answer, where was that? And says, what you did to them. So you see, he's having dialogue with the wicked. But when he's coming in the clouds, in Thessalonians, when we are now bound to heaven, he is not having any conversation with any wicked. He steps in the cloud and only the righteous and those waking up from the grave meet him in the clouds. No dialogue. The wicked who are alive, who are destroyed with the brightness of his coming. So let's understand the kingdom starts first.
Amen.
That's why I say, beware, I'm coming as a thief, because nobody knows he's coming to establish the kingdom. They're actually preparing the further coming when even the 666 has already separated the people, and people are now home. And that coming in the clouds is the one that is not going to be, it's not going to be like a thief, because it's going to be announced. The date will be announced. Go to early writing, page 14. I like to do with evidence so that it reduces arguments of people who do not know what they normally want to argue before knowing the subject, isn't it? Now, in early writing, page 14. Uh-huh. Soon, yeah.
Soon we heard the voice of God like many waters,
Yeah?
which gave us the day
Right?
and the hour
Right.
of Jesus coming.
Right. So the coming in the clouds will be announced. The date and the hour and the time of his coming. That will be announced. But the coming which is not announced is the coming to establish the kingdom. This one will take people by surprise because they are preparing for the coming which will be announced. You know, you are being told by Sister White, soon we heard the date, the day being, you know. Huh? And what? Finish that one and enjoy it.
Soon we heard the voice of God like many waters,
Yeah?
which gave us the day
Yeah?
and the hour
Yeah.
of Jesus coming.
Right?
The living saints,
Right.
144,000 in number,
You see the 144,000 who are being sealed from the church, isn't it? They knew it.
knew and understood.
Yeah,
the
if they
voice.
know it, if they know the date, they can't tell. You think they can't tell people? That coming in the clouds will be announced, it will be known. The coming to establish the kingdom is not known. Is the one that he says, beware, I'll come as a thief. As a thief. I've heard people singing, he might come in the evening, he might come in he might come in the coming which is going to be announced. And even the hour is going to be announced. But the coming which has no announcement, which is only by faith, you and I will get it when you read and start practicing the times when he is going to come.
Amen.
Which are the times? The feast. That's why Paul says for the times and season, you have no need that I should write. When they shall say, peace and safety, you will hear people saying peace and safety when it is actually the time of the coming of Christ. So that's why he wants you and I to be fortified in the message so that nothing overtakes you as a thief. Yeah? When he says, beware, I'll come as a thief, it's actually reminding you not to be caught as a thief. You understand? But people are making as a doctrine to say, let's all remain thinking it's just going to be as a thief. You will actually sleep knowing he is coming. Like it was with William Miller. The year they were expecting the coming of Christ, they knew the hour. They knew the time. They knew that, but only they did not know that he was going in the Holy of Holies. But the principle was correct. It was the event which was wrong. You will sleep packing everything, making sure you are ready. It will be announced. But this coming also, God wants his servants to be ready for it. Because it says in Amos chapter 3 verse 7. I like it in Good News. Let's hear in Good News. 3 verse 7. Yes.
The sovereign Lord never does anything without revealing his plan to his servants, the prophets.
Never does anything without revealing his plans to his servants, the prophets. So you think is going to come without informing his prophets? And why would he inform his prophets? So that they inform the people. And of course, there are some who will be laughing. Saying, oh, you have said that this world has always been like that. But they forget one thing. This world had no people in the beginning. In the beginning, there was only darkness, water, and the Holy Spirit. That's all. They forget that. When you tell them of the coming of Christ, they say the world has ever been like that. But surely God won't do anything without informing the prophets. He will. Meaning, up until his time of coming, there will be prophets. So if you say there is no more prophet, so who is going to be informed then? Who is going to be informed? He's just going to put like leaves of autumn like that. Huh? Spread everything like that. He has never worked like that. Check his record. He has never worked like that. He always worked through the prophets. And you remember from the previous studies that why does he use the prophet? It's because he enjoyed coming face to face when Adam and Eve were still pure, before sin entered. He enjoyed talking to his people. But when sin entered, he put the veil. Now, instead of coming face to face, he has to come through prophets. He has to put visions. He has to put dreams. He has to put impressions through prophets. That's why we need prophets. I don't know those who don't need prophets. You are trailing behind. If you are still in the third angel's message, the prophet of the third angel's message was Sister White, isn't it? But we still have the fourth message and the fifth. All those we have prophets. So if your prophet in the third has died, catch on to the fourth.
Yes.
And catch on to the fifth.
Yes.
So that you have all the 5 messages. Because there are 5 angels' messages instead of 3. You understand? Those who lived in Christ's time when he came, they made their choice, isn't it? Now, if you sit as a church and make your choice, that will never do this. When God is sending a message and you sit down and say, we will never, then you are making your choice, isn't it? This is what they did when Christ came. They refused. And they made their choice, isn't it? Go to John. It's John 12, verse 42. Yeah.
Nevertheless, among the chief rulers,
Right?
also, many believed on him.
There were some in that church believing in the message. Do you see that?
But because of the Pharisees,
Right?
they did not confess him,
Because of the leaders, they were scared.
lest they should be put out of the synagogue.
Why were they scared? So that I will remain without a church. You are scared to walk with God because of that. Because of that. Who is the owner of life? Is God. That's why he says, cease ye from men, whose breath is in his nostrils. The Bible chronicled it. They refused. Because they were only scared to be thrown out of the walls of the church. But not out of the belief in God, but out of the walls of the church. And what? You know why people want these walls? Unless when I die, nobody comes to bury me. You are working for that. Only working for someone to bury you. Lest when my child wants to wed, nobody comes to wed me. You are working for that. God alone made Adam and Eve's wedding. Didn't need everyone. The wedding is just an agreement between the two, and God blessed it. There are so many reasons why they were refusing to acknowledge Christ. But the Bible said they were scared to be thrown out of the synagogue. But in all generations, this has been happening. And people do not know that God is writing everything. He writes why you didn't accept the message. Why did you refuse? You were influenced by so and so. You were influenced because there are some people who are in a habit to influence people. God has chronicled who have done that to you. And not that you are going to be saved, but who has caused your disaster. God has chronicled everything. Yeah? And the Lion of the tribe of Judah, who is Christ, isn't it? He's got everything. You can lie and lie. That I didn't hear, he will just push you back to when you heard it. And when it is known that you have heard it. So there is no two ways about it. It's very important when you hear any message to analyze it with your own conscience. Don't use other people's consciences. This is a time where you have to stand alone like Daniel. Dare to be a Daniel. For the times are evil. So, in the investigative judgment for the dead and the living, this is what God is writing. This generation, from Noah, from Abel, What did they know? What message was sent by God? Who received it? Who refused it? And what caused the one who refused to refuse? And goes to the next generation who acknowledged the message. And next generation, until the generation when Christ came, all that they did to him is chronicled. In the generation where we have Paul, generation where we have Peter, all these disciples who remained working in the early Christian church, the generation when the times and laws were changed in the Dark Ages, God has chronicled everything. And it goes, the generation where William Miller now preparing people for 1844, the generation where John Knox worked, where Charles and John Wesley worked, where Martin Luther worked, the generation when Sister White, we saw that even those now who lived in the generation where Sister White now was preaching third angel's message were being given a privilege to wake up. Did we finish that quotation? It was on Great Controversy, page 637. Why are they given this privilege? Because they have now received the first seal of those who are going to be found alive, have got to be found with the 3 seals, like in early writing, page 15. God, New Jerusalem, and a glorious star. So those who started those 3 seals are still are not alive. They are dead. But they had received one of them. So they have to wake up. Read from, graves are opened.
Graves are opened.
Yeah?
And many that slept in the dust of the earth are awake.
Right?
Some to everlasting life.
Yeah?
And some to shame and everlasting contempt.
We are worried to know who are those who were in the righteous side, right?
All who have died in the faith of the third angel's
Do you hear? All who have died in the faith of the third angel's message.
come forth from the tomb.
Why?
glorified.
Why? When God is assessing all generations, they are all dead. You understand? But these ones are dead from 1844. But they are being given a privilege of waking up in the time of the kingdom. Why? It's because they received the first seal, God. In the 3 seals that all the 144,000 will be having. And the first seal was proclaimed by Sister White of keeping the Sabbaths. All the Sabbaths kept, they give you the name God. Yeah? They are being given now the chance to wake up because they have one seal. And that seal is for them as a passport to join those who are living with 3 seals. Do you see the army of those who are going to be having 3 seals when Christ comes to establish the kingdom is made multitudes. It's now, you can see a few people right now, isn't it? But where are their remainders? Where are their colleagues? They are all in the grave. They also received the seal, God. So God says, because of time, they wouldn't receive the other 2 more. But now when the kingdom is established, they wake up to join those with now 3 seals. To join the army of the 144,000. Huh? Huh? The scripture says it. Those who died in the faith of the third angel's message come forth. But not in other 2 messages. William Miller did not die in the third angel's message time. John Knox, Martin Luther, they did not die in the faith of the third angel's message. It's only when Sister White proclaimed the third angel's message, those who believed in the Sabbath from that 1844, who are dead, we had taken the seal, God, the first seal of the Sabbath. Yeah? That's why Sister White is saying the Sabbath is the seal. Because she was proclaiming that. You understand? But we still have, do we have 3 seals? Let's go to early writings. Otherwise, I'm talking Greek to those who have never seen that it's 3 seals.
Page 15.
Page 15, yeah?
The 144,000
Right?
were all sealed and perfectly united.
Right?
On their foreheads was written, God, New Jerusalem, and a glorious star containing Jesus.
How many seals do we have? 3. Sister White died after proclaiming the first one, which is God, and which is because of the Sabbath. She was proclaiming the third angel's message. And that's why God now gives those who believe the third angel's message, because they received the first seal, God. He gives them now the chance to join those who received the other 2. Huh? This is the greatest army of those who believe the present truth. Huh? They come forth to proclaim again. Did you hear that? They come to proclaim. Because Christ is coming on earth. Yeah? I had somebody asking a question saying, can you explain Isaiah 66 verse 15 to 18? They do not know that it is the coming of Christ to perform a work. Which work? Read from Isaiah chapter 66 verse 15.
66 verse 15. For behold, the Lord will come with fire.
Do you see when he's coming now? He's not coming with clouds.
No.
He's coming with fire and chariot to perform a work.
For behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots,
Right.
like a whirlwind,
Right?
to render his anger with fury.
What anger did he have? Did you see in Ezekiel chapter 9?
Yes.
Where he sets forth 6 men and say, go forth and set a seal in those who sigh and cry. But did everyone receive this message?
No.
Did everyone receive the seal?
No.
Now he said to the other one in Revelation, Ezekiel chapter 9, go to and follow that one who is placing the seal. Yeah? And we saw in Revelation 18 that who is this mighty angel who comes to set a seal in the church? It's Christ himself. Because in Ezekiel 9, he is wearing a priestly garment
Yes.
with a writer's ink on, placing a mark. And we have seen in Revelation 18 is this movement, the last movement, where we have a prophet proclaiming the last message of the hour. And the seal is being placed by the angel using that prophet. And the angel being Christ himself with a sickle. We saw it. Now you know how to understand all the messages. You understand? So now in Isaiah 66 it says, he is now coming with chariot. So if you are telling me that he is coming with clouds only, what about these messages? Because people do not want to accept there is an establishment of the kingdom on earth before this world is finished. Before number 666. Because as Michael stands, there shall be a time of trouble such as never was. So, when does Michael stand? At the beginning of the 7th trumpet. Or the 7th seal. We were studying about the seals. Go back to the messages about the seals. There are plenty of videos. You have to go back and now analyze them correctly. When the seal is... Sister White said that when we were reading. Says when it's the opening of the 7th seal, the judgment is being of the seals, the book which is sealed, the judgment is sitting, yeah, in the throne, in the earthly throne. You understand? Now here we are seeing Christ coming with a chariot, with anger. What anger? Because only a few people were sealed. The rest were rounded off like what they did when Christ came. They rounded people to reject him. The rest were rounded off to reject the message. And the happiest thing is that God chronicles everything. Knows who heard what and who did what. Who caused what? Who caused so and so to reject the message? Who did that? He is chronicle. This is what he is doing in the Holy of Holies. While you and I are enjoying, we have a work occurring there is happening. While he is in the Hall of Holies cleansing the temple, he is also cleansing. But the final cleansing, he comes in chariot to cleanse it physically. Huh? This is how he is coming, in a chariot. And read on.
For behold, the Lord will come with fire,
Mhm.
and with his chariots
Mm.
like a whirlwind,
Mhm.
to render his anger with fury,
Mm.
and his rebuke with flames of fire.
Right?
For by fire and by sword will the Lord plead with all flesh.
What is he doing? He's going to each and everyone now. When he says in Ezekiel 9, go through, your eye shouldn't spare. This is what is happening. This is his coming. Before when you go to Revelation chapter 8, you find that that's the half hour silence in heaven. And that half hour is a week. And it only occurs on the week of the Passover. That 1 hour, half hour silence is 1 week. We will study about it to see how we come to 1 week. It's 1 week. And at the Passover time, which is the type, when were the firstborns slaughtered? Passover. And where about the antitype? Where there is no type, there is no truth. There is no truth. And how many days are the Passover? 7 days. That's the half hour silence. Why is there silence in heaven? The very angels who did come to slaughter the firstborns in Egypt, if you believe in that, on the Passover, they went where there was no blood, killed the firstborn. Where there was blood, they passed over. That's why we have a Passover. That's why we should keep the Passover, because there's still an antitype Passover. Where there is no a seal, Passover. Don't go near. Where there is no seal,
Slaughter.
it says so in Ezekiel chapter 9. Read it, Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 4.
And the Lord said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof.
Mm-hmm.
And to the others he said in mine hearing, Go ye after him through the city, and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children, and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the
Do you
mark.
believe this is going to happen?
Yes.
Do you see Isaiah now saying he comes with a chariot to do that? Huh? Some people don't believe. They say, no, it's not literal, it's a spiritual slaughter. Let's go to Sister White. Does Sister White say it's spiritual or literal? Go to 211, T5 211. Testimony for the Church, volume 5, page 211. It's now analyzing that very verse of Ezekiel 9.
The class who do not feel grieved over their own spiritual declension, nor mourn over the sins of others, will be left without the seal of God. The Lord commissions his messengers, the men with slaughtering weapons
Right?
in their hands. Go ye after him through the city, and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity.
Right?
Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children, and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary.
Right?
Then they began at the Ancient of Men, which were before the house.
Right? The Ancient of Men, obviously, they are the ones leading the church, isn't it? That's what he's saying. Let's hear what Sister White says. Is it literal?
Here we see that the church,
Right?
the Lord's sanctuary,
Do you hear that?
was the first to feel the stroke of
Because
the
judgment began in the house of God. Right? Which one is the judgment? That's the judgment now. It's being judged. They did not receive the seal. Some received the seal, some didn't. So this occurs before the number 666 that you are expecting. Because once judgment is finished with this, would he allow us to go and influence others outside? Because if you read the very Ezekiel 9, once he has finished, now he's instructed to go outside. Huh? And then the same test goes outside. Right? Uh-huh.
The ancient men, those to whom God had
Why
given
the ancient men are started first? Listen to the reasons.
the ancient men, those to whom God had given great light, and who had stood as guardians of the spiritual interests of the people, had betrayed their trust.
You see?
They had taken the position that we need not look for miracles, and the marked manifestation of God's
It
power
means this
is
warning
before
has been given. And what was their answers? No, these miracles, God had used to do that a long time ago, not now. Did God used to destroy people? Yes. The flood of Noah, he destroyed. Huh? Sodom and Gomorrah, he destroyed. And then, who should be warning people then that there is a further destruction of this? Because this is a warning, which was supposed to be done by whoever is working right now to warn people that, like it was with Noah, like it was with the Lot, and this warning should be done in our time. People did not warn anyone, and people are destroyed. So what does it? He starts with those who are supposed to warn the people. And what?
times have changed.
We see what they say. No, it won't happen. Times have changed. God did that in Noah's time, in Lot's time, but not in our time. Listen.
These words strengthen their
And these words strengthen their unbelief. No, that nothing will happen to us.
And they say, the Lord will not do good.
God will never
Neither
do
will
this.
He do evil.
God will never
He
do
is
this.
too merciful to
He is a
visit his
merciful
people in
God man.
judgment.
He loves everyone and even their sins.
Thus peace and safety
Peace and
is the
safety.
cry from men
Yeah.
who will never again
The
lift
one
up
that
their
Paul
voice
said,
like
did
the
you hear Paul say,
trumpets.
when you hear them say peace and safety, sudden destruction. What sudden destruction? This one. Where he comes with the chariot to render. He says he will plead by sword and by fire. He will plead with all flesh.
Thus peace and safety is the cry from men who will never again lift their voice like a trumpet.
If you
to
hear
show
them
God's
say,
people
if you hear them say, that will never happen, it means the message of the hour, they will never declare it. Lot had a message of the hour.
Yes.
For the people who were supposed to be judged in his time. Yeah? Noah had a message of the hour. For the people who were supposed to be judged in his time. And in our time, we have a message of the hour of warning people that this is going to happen. If you do not receive the seal of God, that will happen. If you do not sigh and cry and receive a seal, God will plead with many, but come not near with anyone with the seal of God. Somebody needed to do that job. But God is saying, they will never raise their voice. They only say peace and safety. This is biblical.
these dumb dogs that would not bark
Right?
are the ones who feel the just vengeance of an offended God.
Do you see that? It will happen.
Men,
Men,
maidens,
maidens,
and little children
and little children.
all perish together.
Is it physical or literal? It's physical. That's what my brain tells me. It's physical. Don't come with your philosophical interpretations there. Take it as it is. So let's